Hey, and welcome back to my channel. The BC government is cracking down on what they call bad faith evictions. They've announced a series of policies that they're going to put forth into law to protect tenants. We're going to talk about that in this video, and then I'm quickly going to touch on some of the real estate numbers from last month at the end. Real quick before we get started, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people buy and sell real estate all around the Lower Mainland. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to learn more about that process with me, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below. And if you like real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. Okay, so jumping right into this, and I have a lot to say about some of these new policies that the provincial government just announced. I'm going to outline some of the main points on what they are doing to protect renters. They're actually dubbing it, saying that they are protecting and supporting both renters and landlords in the process. We will touch on that. But BC Housing Minister came out and, they're really trying to target bad faith evictions. And what they find are bad faith evictions are the evictions that are done for personal landlord use. So how the law has worked up until now is provided a tenant was on a month-to-month, if you needed to, as the owner of the property, as a landlord, if you needed to utilize that property, you could move into it. Of course, you'd need to move into it for a minimum of 6 months before possibly renting it out in the future. And really the whole guard was that, people would say that they are going to use it for their own personal use because the tenant was paying a lower rent. When the tenant left, a month later, they would see that listing either posted on a rental board, they would see it posted on the MLS for sale. So there were some landlords out there that were trying to evict a lower paying tenant, saying they were going to use the property themselves, not adhering to the 6-month minimum, and then again listing that property. And what would happen is the tenant might catch wind of it, catch sight of it, turned into obviously an issue for the RTB, the tenancy board, to litigate and go down that process. So bad faith evictions, that is the target by this announcement. So number one of the changes was that landlords can no longer add an increased rental amount for an additional occupancy for children under the age of 19. So how it works right now is, you can have a rental rate for the people you're approving. Maybe it's a single person or a couple. And you can say, look, if a third person gets added or starts occupying this space, we can increase the rental amount based on that. And you can still do that. But moving forward, if that person is a child under 19, you cannot incrementally raise the rate on that same tenant. So this is to protect against situations where, a couple might be having a child, or a child moves in. It's got to be very careful surrounding how this wording is going to look. Are people going to come and basically, present themselves as singles or couples, and then next thing you know, you have 4 or 5 people living in the suite. They've brought their 3 kids in. So have to be very careful how that's worded. That's change number one. Number two, purpose-built rentals. So this is a building that has 5 or more units. You can no longer, as the owner of that building or as the landlord, move into that space for personal use. You cannot evict for personal use. That's off the table now. Now the other change, and this is where I take some issues. So with this bad faith eviction or the personal use occupancy for the landlord moving in, they're going to create a registry. So if as a landlord you are going to evict a tenant based on you moving into it, your own personal use, you go into this online web database and you generate the eviction notice from this site. And essentially what this site is going to do is it's going to allow the government to keep track of everyone who is evicting based on personal use. So you go into this site, you create the notice. They're going to move the minimum requirement to have to live in that space from 6 months to 12 months. So as a landlord now, if you're moving back into a property you own, you have to stay there for a year. And now they're going to have this compliance measurement by having the eviction notices come out of this individual site. They're also going to They're also going to make the notice that you have to give to a tenant for your own personal use moving in, the eviction notice. They're actually going to increase the time. Right now, if the tenant is on a month to month, for example, you would give 2 months, with one of those months being free of compensation. Basically, you would give them a credit for that final month. That's no longer. We don't know how much notice you're going to have to give now as a landlord, but it is going to increase if you're going to move in there for personal use. Now they kind of frame this under the guise that, this is supporting landlords and it's supporting tenants. And, the support for landlords in all of this was basically saying that, look, we've been working at reducing wait times for disputes at the RTB. We're making progress and we're going to continue to work towards it. And so that's the support that the landlords get out of this. And this is all in addition to the Renters' Bill of Rights, which the federal government announced a couple weeks back. I did a video on that. I will link to it here so you can take a look at that. So that's what the provincial government has come out with. And so when I look at it in its capacity, this is another instance of, the provincial government taking away some of the control that homeowners, property owners have over their own property and dictating what they can or cannot do with it. Now, the reality is, landlords also are under time constraints. So the fact that you'd have to give additional notice to be able to move into the property and you'd have to stay in that property for 12 months, most of the time that is going to work out. But what happens in the instance where that landlord is under time constraint, time pressure, they need to make a move. There are landlords out there that are renters that may need to move back into their own place. So, this whole support for landlords and tenants, it completely, in my opinion, neglects that the landlord is also a human that has changes that happen in their life and they have to make certain shifts very quickly. What happens if they move back into their property and in 8 months they get a job offer across the country? And now you're in a property that you own, but you're in a conundrum thinking, if I move out of here, I'm going to be in some trouble because I didn't stay here for the 12 months. And, take the real estate side of the equation out of it. Anytime you give too much power to an entity over something that you own, your own asset, your own things, it's a problem. And, I did a couple videos on this already, shorter form videos, and I was surprised by how many people are just blindly supportive of change for the sake of change, and allowing entities to grasp more and more control slowly, by surely, just basically grabbing a little bit of control as they go along until they have so much of it. And, when we look at BC right now, we look at the legislation, and I do want to preface this and say that, I've been very supportive of what the provincial government has put into place, vastly supportive. Most of their policies, and especially surrounding housing supply, I've been very supportive of. But I feel like, this government has really told rental investors, rental property investors, you're not welcome here. And, as a rental investor, we're quite lucky in the sense that if you do invest in the Lower Mainland, we do have some of the highest price appreciation across the country, if not the highest. So as a long-term investment, yes, rental still makes sense. You get to leverage, you hold on to the property. Prices generally, even in a bad year, last year prices went up about 5%. And so when rates come down, they typically will go up a little bit more than that. So there's still some protections there. But, it's another signal from this government that we are not fond of the investor in this province. We have the Airbnb legislation that's coming into play May 1st. We have the rent control, where our rental increases are nowhere near the rate of inflation. So once you have a tenant in place, a year from now, they are going to be well under market rent. And that tenant needs to move out for you to be able to recoup. Now, the interesting thing that I want to mention amidst all of these rental changes, and again, what I view as coming down on the landlord, making it more difficult for the landlord, is BC is also launching their secondary suite program right now. And this is a program that they announced last year. I believe it was in the fall. And basically what this program is it goes to homeowners and it says, look, we will give you a loan of up to $40,000 for 50% of the cost of building a legal secondary suite and renting it out below market for 5 years. So think about this for a sec. We look at the legislation that has come forth from the government. So many pieces of legislation targeting the rental investor, the landlord, those who have a rental unit. Yet on the other side of the coin, they're launching this program where they're going to give you cash to build a rental suite and then rent it below market. Now, in my opinion, this is giving cash to get people to accept a death sentence. It's basically saying we're going to give you money, but you're going to be restricted by not only the policies we have today, but what are the chances between now and the 5 years that you're renting that below market? What are the chances that there are going to be more policies that are directed towards really hurting landlords in the process? I think the chances are extremely great. I can't think of anyone in their right mind that's going to take advantage of this secondary suite program that basically comes with a ball and chain. It comes with a set of handcuffs. At the end of the 5 years, you're now well under market value for that rent. You're going to be able to raise that rent 3 or 3.5% lower than the rate of inflation. And then at that point, what if you want to move into your secondary suite? What if you have a family member, immediate family member that moves into it? Are they going to view it and say, well, hold on a sec, you have a spare room upstairs. Why isn't your mother just going to move into the spare room upstairs? Why do they have to move into the suite? So this is a scenario where what I see visually is over legislation happening in the real estate market here in BC. And again, a lot of the policies have been good, but in order to understand whether policies are effective, I believe you need to implement and you need to watch. And I think that not enough time is being taken to sit back and see the results of the policies they're putting into place. All I'm saying is that we need to take a bit of a break. We need to take a bit of a breather, take a vacation, sit back and watch the policies that have been announced, some of them that haven't even come into place yet, like the short-term rental legislation, and see what the effects of those are. Because this is over legislation when you introduce new policy that basically takes this secondary suite program, which was already iffy at best, and makes it futile. I can't think of anyone that would want to take advantage of this program. I've talked to multiple homeowners over the last few months. Every couple weeks, I'm talking to a new homeowner that maybe they have a secondary suite right now, or they're thinking of moving into a property that has a suite. And 9 out of 10 of them are saying, look, my basement suite, I'm not renting that out. That is not, I'm not going to be a landlord under this environment here in BC to rent out a basement suite. It's not worth it for me to collect the $1,700 or the $1,800 more per month. I'm going to do everything in my power to work more. It makes more sense to drive Uber Eats part-time and keep that for your own personal use. So, in my opinion, the basement suite, already so many people are saying we're not renting it out. The basement suite is going to become extinct for the long-term renter here in BC. That's going to be done. I think many of them will turn into short-term rentals because you can do that at your principal residence. So I think many will turn into short-term rentals. Most will be kept for the landlord use or their own space. We're seeing a lot more families coming together later on in life, multi-generational households. So that basement suite often is reserved for elderly family. But this basically renders that basement suite extinct for the long-term market. They're going to go away. And let's keep in mind that, the long-term rental market, when we look at basement suites, who are renting those out outside of affordable housing, outside of subsidized housing, it's the most vulnerable population generally are renting out basement suites because they come at the lowest cost, right? Those are the tenants that are most cost conscious are not renting downtown condos. They're looking for basement suites in older homes where the rental rates are lower. So when you start to take that product out of the equation by over legislating, you take that out, you now have more tenants, more people vying for the condo as that entry level rental. And so what is that ultimately going to do for rental prices? So again, I'm supportive of a lot of what has been done in this province, but there's just this feeling of over legislation, and what are they going to announce next week that's going to over legislate where we're at today? So that's my bit of a rant in terms of what's coming out in terms of bad faith evictions. And look, I'm all for going after bad faith evictions. I'm not for taking away people's property rights that are doing nothing wrong, and just kind of pulling and pulling and inching and keep pulling people's property rights away, because shunning the investors is not sustainable for long-term housing supply in our province. It just doesn't work. So again, if it were me, I would be stepping back and I would be watching to see what are the results of the actions I've taken thus far, and are they going in the direction that we expect them to go? Do I need to tweak policy that we've already put into place prior to coming out with another policy, which again is just pulling away from a program that we've put into the market that we wanted to bring rentals to the market? And again, now this kills it. You rent below market for 5 years. That's a big gamble that 5 years from now, you're going to do what you want. You're going to be able to do what you want with that basement suite. All right, so I'm done my rant portion. I know I've been talking for some time. I just quickly want to touch on some of the sales data from last month. One of the things that I was watching very closely is how were prices going to respond based on the additional inventory we've seen so far this year. As it stands right now, we are above our 10-year average for inventory, both in Metro Vancouver, both on the Fraser Valley side. Prices in March did inch upwards yet again. So now we've seen 2 consecutive months of price growth, Metro Vancouver and Fraser Valley, across all product types. Anywhere from 1% for condos in Metro Vancouver to upwards of 2% for detached homes. So 2 straight months of price growth. We saw new listings on the Metro Vancouver side hit 5,000 new listings, so new listings are well up as well. Pricing is a bit of a lagging indicator, so I'm going to watch very closely how pricing tracks this month in April. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. If we see price growth here in April amidst this additional inventory, I think that bodes very well that real estate prices are going to continue to grow throughout the year, and everything is just poised for whenever that interest rate cut comes. It's going to bring a lot more people into the market. So I'm urging people, if you have already been considering buying real estate, it is a great time right now. We've had one of the biggest new listing weeks this week as I record this. Many more listings on the market this week. Next week, there'll be a whole bunch of new ones to hit as well. And as a buyer, if you're trying to get some sort of deal out there, you do it when the listing hits. So really, the time is now. When you're watching this video, I think it's the best opportunity to buy outside of Q1, what we were just in. I think it's one of the best opportunities to buy for this year. As we move through the year, inventory might get eaten up, as is typical as you head into the summer. And it's, again, if we see that interest rate cut come, I think prices are going to go up again and more buyers are going to enter back into the market. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, hit that like button, because what it does is it takes the video and it sends it out to more people so they can learn from it as well. And if you enjoy this weekly real estate content, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. And lastly, again, if you're in the Lower Mainland and you wanted to talk to me about your real estate goals, your situation, you can book me for a free call, or you can just send me a text. Give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever you like. All my contact info is in the description box. But I want to thank you for watching this week's video, and I look forward to seeing you next week.